Hello and welcome. Can people hear me?
Oh, sorry. Yes, we can hear you. And now I'm unmuted, so you might be able to hear me.
Thank you very much. Miss Boulay, are you ready to go?
I am ready.
And Miss Federico?
Yes, I'm ready.
Great, thank you. We are on the record in the Colorado Public Utilities Commission's proceeding number 24R-0559EG. My name is Connor Farley. I am the administrative law judge assigned to this proceeding. It is approximately 11 a.m. on May 20th, 2025. And this remote public comment hearing is being webcast. This continued remote public comment hearing was scheduled in a notice of proposed rulemaking, otherwise we'll refer to that as a NOPR, which was decision number C24-0940 that issued on December 24th, 2024. And then the hearing, as initially scheduled and went forward, was then continued in decision number R25-0157-I that issued on March 5th, 2025. This continued remote public comment hearing was scheduled to allow members of the public to provide comment regarding some proposed rule changes as outlined in the NOPR. I want to welcome and thank each of you for being here today and for participating in this rulemaking and for providing your input. Let me just say at the outset that there's likely to be a conversation here today, and if at any time I mispronounce a name or refer to someone by an incorrect pronoun, I apologize and mean no respect. Please simply correct me, and I will then endeavor to get it right from then on out. So let me just cover very briefly how we got to where we are. As I noted, the NOPR issued with proposed changes to the existing rules. We had 2 rounds of written comments leading up to the public comment hearing that took place on March 5th, 2025. Participants at that remote public comment hearing, led by Public Service and what we all understand as the Labor Coalition, suggested it would be beneficial for them to discuss among themselves the proposed rules to see if they could reach consensus on some further proposed changes to the rules proposed in the NOPR. As a result, I continued the remote public comment hearing until today and set a schedule for the parties to meet and attempt to reach some such consensus, and then file a report with any further proposed changes, followed by initial and then response comments, written comments, regarding any changes proposed in the report, or frankly, anything else within reason. The deadlines for the initial and response comments were April 23rd, 2025 and May 7th, 2025, respectively. I set out that schedule in decision number R25-0157-I. Obviously, I left it up to the participants to figure out their schedule for meeting to try to, well, to hold their discussions and try to reach some consensus. Public Service filed 3 status reports, the first 2 of which stated that the participants were still working through the process of building consensus regarding changes to the proposed rules. The 3rd status report was filed on April 21st, 2025, and included proposed blue line changes to the proposed rules. And let me just say to all of you who participated, thank you very much. for that. The blue line changes are certainly helpful. As noted in the third status report, they're not comprehensive. So I understand that, but I know that you performed a lot of work to get to where we are with those proposed changes. So I just want to thank all of you for that. The third status report also noted where things stood, at least as of the date of that report, with respect to where the participants were with respect to those blue line changes. And as I understand it, and hopefully I'm not going to get this wrong, but as to the electric rules, Atmos and CNG took no position on the blue line changes. COSSA, COSSA, and SEIA provided no indication about their position. But then the rest of you indicated support for the changes shown by the blue lines in the rules attached to that third status report. As to the gas rules, it was a little bit different. Interwest and Tri-State took no position. COSSA and SEIA provided no indication about their position. And the rest of you supported the changes, those blue line changes as to the gas rules. So let me just ask at the outset and give an opportunity for anybody to pipe in as to whether the positions of the participants have changed since the filing of the third status report. And I see that Mr. Survey popped up. I'm not sure if that was intentional at this time, but go ahead, Mr. Survey.
Just joining on video, and just want to thank everybody for a great process. We were able to, I think, get to a really good spot. In particular, thank Labor Coalition, and no change on behalf of Public Services position at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Survey, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
You nailed it, actually. Thank you, Judge Farley.
Okay, thank you. My mother was a French professor, so maybe it's coming in. Although she didn't teach me much French, maybe, well, anyway. So anybody else, has anything changed that I should know about in terms of the positions of the participants? I'm not seeing anybody raising a hand, so I will take it that the third status report continues to be accurate in terms of where participants are, at least as to those changes. So let me just tell you what my plan is for today. My plan is very limited today. As an initial matter, I'm happy to take any further comments from anybody regarding anything having to do with this rulemaking. And in particular, I would note that nobody filed written comments regarding the blue line changes attached to the third status report. If anybody was hoping to be able to provide oral comments here today regarding those blue line changes, happy to take them. I'm also happy to take comments regarding anything else in this rulemaking. But I feel that, the record is, at least at this relatively early stage of this rulemaking, given how comprehensive the changes are, the proposed changes are, I feel like the record is at least adequate. And I think what will be most efficient is for me to continue this hearing, go off and work on an interim decision in which I would sift through all of the written and oral comments and propose or produce an interim decision with further proposed changes in light of the comments that have been submitted to date. What I would then do is include deadlines for another round of written comments reacting to what I will have done in that interim decision, and then hold a further continued public comment hearing. That's what I am proposing to do. I am willing to listen if anybody thinks there is a better route forward. And I'm prepared to be convinced otherwise. But that's my plan. Again, I think it may be the most efficient use of our time for me to do that, or for this proceeding to proceed that way. So perhaps I can narrow things a little bit through an interim decision that addresses the comments submitted to date. So let me be quiet and see if anybody has any reaction to that, and in particular, if anybody has an alternative plan. For example, if anybody came here today anticipating to be able to really work through any particular part of the proposed rules, again, I'm willing to listen. So I will pause.
Your Honor, I'm on a new computer, so I can't find the procedure place button to lift my hand, but I would appreciate an opportunity to speak on behalf of the Labor Coalition. I think the process you've laid out makes a huge amount of sense, because you need to verify and conclude that we have implemented the statute properly. That's your job. Labor would like to be in a position to get rules done as soon as possible for the following reasons. This statute was passed in 2023. The NOPR didn't go out till the end of 2024. We are in the middle of a very, very large just transition solicitation by public service. And so any clarity with respect to labor's participation in that would be appreciated, but I know there's a process and we have to go through it, and you've got other things to do, but we're anxious to get it done, Your Honor.
Understood, and I appreciate that, Ms. Concelia. I understand, and I appreciate you understanding that I have a few other things that I'm working on as well that have timeframes attached to them. So I've thought long and hard about the schedule and when I would continue this to. Well, I'll just give you the schedule that I am tentatively, although pretty securely wedded to, which is I've continued the hearing until August 19th. I would endeavor to have my interim decision out by the beginning to mid-July, with an initial round of written comments reacting to what I've done towards the end of July. I have written down here July 30th, with response comments on August 12th. So that is my plan, and it takes into account largely my schedule and what I have pending in front of me. And I'd love to be able to do it earlier. And I thought long and hard about trying to do this earlier, but I also want to be realistic, and I want to take as good of a shot at the interim decision and really sifting through the comments to date, so that it'll hopefully be as useful as possible to all of us and make this more efficient in the long term. So if anybody wants to tell me that that just doesn't work, again, I'm all ears. I'm happy to listen. You may have a bit of a burden in persuading me, but I'm willing to listen.
Judge Farley, this
Yes.
is Thor Nelson on behalf of Atmos Energy Corporation, and certainly Atmos has no objection to the schedule that you laid out. I just wanted to offer a thought for your consideration that has sometimes been used in other proceedings that I've been a part of, and that is, it is possible as you continue your efforts to analyze the information that's been presented in the blue line rules that in advance of the anticipated interim decision that you're thinking would come out in mid-July, as I understand it, that you may have a question, because there are certainly in the blue lines, there are things that the parties agreed to that, you know, I don't want to say came out of left field, but they were a function of a compromise discussion and not necessarily any one party's position as it was reflected in the pre-filed comments. And so I just wanted to extend, at least for my part, the invitation that to the extent you have a question that you would pose to the entities who participated in the drafting of the proposed rules, and that question might help you as you think through what your interim decision would be. I think it would be welcome to get those questions, and I think the group worked very well in putting those rules together. I'm sure we could put together a response or explanation as to why we've done it a particular way. And in particular, if it, like I said, is a little bit different from the way people presented in their initial comments. And so just wanted to make that invitation available if that would be useful to you as you in the next month and change working on your process.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Nelson, and I may make use of that. One question I did have is basically, we had a round involving initial and then response written comments in advance of the third status report with the blue line changes. And one question I have just generally is where the participants are with respect to those written comments. In other words, I recognize that there are an awful lot of those written comments that address areas other than what were addressed in the non-comprehensive blue line changes. And I think I can figure out, to the extent participants commented about issues directly addressed in the blue line changes, I can figure out, essentially if you're supporting the blue line changes, then those comments are, no longer represent the position of the participant who made them. I can figure that out. It's more on the other areas that are impacted by the blue line changes that maybe I could use some help with, and we don't need to do that today. I'm not sure that would be a very good use of our time, but I guess what I'm saying is, to the extent any of you are backing off of written comments in those areas that are not directly addressed by your written comments, that would be helpful for me to know. And if folks want to submit further written comments, letting me know that, that would be a useful aid to me. I'm not going to set a deadline for anybody to do that. But that, I think you can figure that out. That would be useful to me to know as I work through my interim decision.
Your Honor, on behalf of the Labor Coalition, it was our understanding that people were essentially compromising/abandoning the issues they raised in their written comments and were all supportive of these blue lines.
Okay, so let me just explore that a little bit, Ms. Consilia. I mean, so do you mean that all comments made before submission of the blue line changes are now basically out the window? Go ahead.
Yes, other than for you using those as support for adopting these in your recommendation, because I think we each submitted some information and some reasons why. But on behalf of the Labor Coalition, we did not get everything that we wanted, but we think that these blue lines are a good global settlement of all of the disputes of all of the parties. And I think that's what everyone's going to tell you, I hope.
Understood. So, I mean, I think the third status report, I've said this a couple of times. I think I'm getting it right. It said that the changes addressed in the blue line changes were not comprehensive, which I took to mean that I could not just necessarily accept everything in the blue line changes and then we're done. I took that to mean that folks had maybe some concerns about other areas of the rules that were not addressed.
I think that from our perspective, and I can't put words in other councils' mouths, that was sort of a lawyerly position that we all needed to think about it and see if anyone else filed comments after that status report, and nobody filed comments. So I don't think anyone, I hope anyone has any other issues that are not resolved. But if you need something written from the parties, we clearly did not make that clear in the third status report.
Okay. Well, and perhaps I'm going to get more or less clarity given the number of hands that are raised here now. So let me start with Mr. Survey, as his entity, as I understand it, helped to spearhead this process. Go ahead, Mr. Survey.
So I'd like to echo Ms. Consilia's statement that, we viewed this as consensus, but, part of the reason for the not comprehensive there was just that we didn't feel like we could represent for all participants that they wouldn't have any further comments or other topics, that they wanted to discuss. But it wasn't an anticipation of other folks raising specific issues. It just, we weren't, we didn't feel that we could represent that nobody had anything else to raise. So that was put there more as like a word of caution and, to note that other folks might raise, other things, but it wasn't in anticipation of any specific comment.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Survey, your understanding is that at least as to the entities that that support the blue line changes, that they were effectively I don't know what the right word is here, but giving up their previous comments regarding issues with the rules.
I don't think I can go that far for them. I'm really interested to hear what other folks have to say, but I will say that, it did represent a give and take, and we all gave a little, and so I think that to the extent that, prior comments are inconsistent, that, wouldn't be unreasonable, but I can't speak for other folks on that point. So welcome, other folks' input on that.
Okay, thank you. The next on my list is Mr. Leisure, and I apologize if I'm butchering your last name. Please help me with that.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. It's Léger,
Leger.
and so also in the same French vein as Mr. Survey. From Interwest perspective, I just would echo what Ms. Consilia said. This compromise language addresses the issues that we raised in our prior information that we submitted in this docket, as well as I think really does a good job of compromising between the parties and providing language that is very comfortable for us in that situation. I think in terms of if something were to change from the blue line, that is something that obviously we'd want the opportunity to put some input into. But from Interwest perspective, if the blue line was adopted in whole right now, no issues remain outstanding from our perspective. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's good clarity, Mr. Leger. And Mr. Nelson, you're next.
Thank you. And similar to the prior commenters, I will say on behalf of Atmos Energy, here's how I would sort of frame this. The issues we raised in the comments remain the issues that we are concerned about. However, we would ask the commission to set aside the specific rule recommendations we made in comments and instead adopt the rule changes that are reflected in the blue lines. And so that's how I would sort of frame where we are at. But like Mr. Leger said, Atmos's recommendation to the commission is to adopt for the gas rules the blue lines as proposed. And if that were done, that would fully resolve the issues that we've raised in the proceeding.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Appreciate that. Mr. Hefner.
Yeah, good morning, Your Honor. Dietrich Hefner on behalf of Tri-State. I think we're in a pretty similar position in that we fully support the blue lines. We think those address Tri-State's core concerns in this rulemaking. I wouldn't say we're abandoning our prior comments, but we think the blue lines address the concerns we had raised, and we're not asking for anything additional at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. And Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mark Davidson on behalf of Colorado Natural Gas, and I would echo Mr. Nelson's comments to the extent that we had initial comments that may not have been captured by the blue lines. CNG is supportive of the end of the process here and the blue lines that have been offered for your consideration. And to the extent that there's, I guess I'll say, background from the standpoint of the commentary that has been given, at least by CNG in the past, in this proceeding, it may be useful for your thinking, but we endorse the blue line rules that have been offered. And as Mr. Leger said, if you were to adopt them today, we would be totally satisfied and move forward with these rules. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So all that provides very good clarity to me. I think I'm gonna, not hearing otherwise, I think I'm gonna stick with my plan that I've laid out. And this clarification that you've all provided will certainly help as I draft the interim decision. And as I said, I'll give everybody the opportunity to file another round of written comments. Let me just ask, does anybody have anything else that they'd like to say? Any comments they'd like to provide? Just anything within reason at this remote public comment hearing today? So I'm not hearing or seeing anybody pop up. And I would note that, again, that CASA and SEIA, I don't think took positions on the blue line changes. I'm not seeing anybody representing them popping up, and I'm not seeing anybody, I don't think, who's here on behalf of them. But I guess we continue not to know where they are on the blue line changes, which is just fine. But I just thought I'd note that and see if anybody's here on behalf of them. I don't think they are, but I'll pause for a moment. Okay. So with that, let me just thank all of you for being here again today and for providing this clarity in particular regarding the blue line changes. That's certainly helpful to me. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this remote public comment hearing until August 9th. I'm sorry, August 19th at 11 a.m. So thank you again, and I'll see you on August 19th at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.